and this is my story. Um, I was born and raised, well, I was born in Japan, raised in Louisiana. My father was in the Air Force. However, at the age of 2, he was killed in an automobile accident by a drunk driver. So my mom raised us, myself and 3 siblings, as a single mother. We had everything we needed, but as a child, you want. So that was sort of an issue. We had, nothing we wanted, but everything we needed. But I did well in math and science. So as a result, I went on to graduate from high school and then go to college and major in electrical engineering. Southern University, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, go Jags, another HBCU. And then went on to get a master's and PhD. Also in electrical engineering from Stanford University and Rice University. And then left to go work in corporate America for IBM. I worked there for nearly 26 years. Half that time was in research. I did leading edge research in supercomputer design. That's my background. I'm a supercomputer designer. And then I spent the second half of my IBM career learning about new and different things in development and marketing and sales. And finally, a couple of roles in the Middle East, where I spent 2 years, and then Africa, where I spent about 14 months as the Chief Technology Officer for IBM Central, East, and West Africa. And what I did during my professional career at IBM, I always thought about, okay, Sandra, what are you going to do next? So in my last 3 years, when I was in the Middle East and Africa, I had some experiences that became a catalyst for what I did next. So I traveled throughout the continent, representing IBM to its largest customers. And what I learned was that IBM was selling the customers what IBM wanted them to buy, not what they needed. And the customers did not have the deep technical expertise to have those conversations to fully understand what they needed. And so I saw this as an opportunity to start a consulting company, which I did, SKJ Visioneering LLC. After I left IBM, right when I came back from Kenya, a couple of months later, I started this consulting company, reached out to my contacts throughout the continent, and learned that while there was a need for this type of service, to more or less represent these clients and have the conversations with the IBMs of the world to say, no, this is not what they're going to buy. This is what they need. And so this is what they're going to buy. Most of the clients were not interested in paying for this service. So I did a pivot. I also thought about my experiences in Kenya and throughout the continent, but I lived in Nairobi. They had a very popular mobile money app called M-Pesa. It's very similar to Venmo, to Cash App, to Zelle that we're all familiar with, or most of us. But in this case, most of the folks in that part of the world do not have bank accounts, but they have mobile phones. So the mobile telephone service, Safaricom, offered this financial account as a service. And so the service was provided through the mobile telephone company. And so I used that app when I lived there. Everywhere I used it. Very popular. I also had the experience of when I would come home, it was very difficult for me to send money back to that part of the world because it was sometimes very slow. It was extremely expensive. So I did a pivot and started another company called Global Mobile Finance that enables those who live in the West to send money to family and friends in emerging countries, like Africa. So I'm starting with recipients in Africa, but at some point going to broaden my customer base to most developing countries. So I created this app. The business has been in existence for about, how many years now? About 4 years or so. So that was my journey to entrepreneurship. I did not have members of my family in the previous generation or the previous generations who were entrepreneurs. Just one older cousin who started a business, has a physics background, but started a business selling commercial insurance, right? He did very well in that business, and now he has his son has taken over the business because he has retired. So growing up, no one encouraging me to think about entrepreneurship, not having that contact with any entrepreneurs. It's just that through my professional experience, I saw a better opportunity for me from a career perspective to look at entrepreneurship versus remaining in corporate America. And it has been a wonderful decision for me. So what has been some of my greatest fears? Well, I was in a nice, comfortable role at IBM, and I did not retire. I left, okay? And so there's some fear in the unknown in that. And when you couple that with you're talking about a part of the world that is not as highly regarded when it comes to funding your business, venture capitalists and angel investors, they love my background, but I mentioned Africa and all of a sudden their minds shut down. So my greatest fears has been essentially how I'm going to do that. But I know based upon a eureka moment that I had when I visited a slave castle in Africa, and this was in Ghana, and I stood out on that ledge looking at the Atlantic Ocean, and it was a museum, the slave castle, that more or less said, for those who have gone through, may their descendants come back and help rebuild the continent. So I feel as though I am one of those to collaborate with the people of Africa to help rebuild the continent. And so that is what motivates me, in spite of my fears. Nothing worthwhile that you're going to do, you're going to do without any fears, right? Because the risks associated with that, and there's fear associated with that. But for me, I was able to keep it in check. The importance of self-discipline. Well, this is something you have to be driven to do this, right? Because, initially, it's one person, then it's a few people. You are going to encounter numerous obstacles, right? So you have to be driven. You have to be self-disciplined. This was not an issue for me because I'm a trailblazer. Throughout my career, I was, more or less the only person who looks like me. So I encountered obstacles. So that is just who I am, but by the time I started the entrepreneur journey, obstacles was just part of my professional experience, right? And so I've always had the self-discipline to do that. And by the way, that is rooted in the fact that I took piano lessons when I was very young, and that's how I learned my discipline. The importance of failure, of course you're not going to do everything right all of the time. You're going to fail. The importance is that you learn from that and that you fail fast. You cannot wallow in the sea of your failure. You step back, relax a little bit, think about what can I learn from this, and then move on. It's part of the journey, right? So advice for owning a business, if this is something that you are passionate about, right? Something that you know that you were put on this earth to do. And all of us have a skill, at least one, most of us have more than one, that drives us. So think about what is it that excites you so much that you cannot wait to get up out of bed every day to do it, right? That you would do it even if you were not paid, but don't tell anybody because you do want to be paid for this, right? Then you can turn that into a business and you're going to be good at it. And you're probably going to be the best at this. So that is what I would encourage you, any of you who are thinking about owning a business. And also, it is critical to find a mentor. Mentors who are in the field of endeavor, whatever that may be, or the business that you're thinking about entering, right? Those who have been successful in that business, who can provide you with guidance and direction and can prevent you from making the mistakes that they made, so you can learn from their experiences and you don't have to reinvent the wheel, so to speak. But it's also important to seek mentors who may not know anything about what you're doing, but can provide you with moral support. You cannot underestimate the power of moral support, right? So, when you reach that obstacle and you may be encouraged and you may think about, oh, why am I doing this? Having that support will be the difference in many instances between success and failure. So it is important that you have a few mentors who can provide you with guidance, direction, and moral support to ensure your success. But again, you're going to fail. You are going to encounter obstacles. Do not be discouraged, right? If I can do this, certainly you can. And so that is what I encourage you to do. You're seriously thinking about doing this, find a partner, find a mentor, do your homework, have the self-discipline to move forward. You are the captain of your ship. Don't let anyone else try to encourage you what you know that you can do, and then move forward and do it. So I have shared my story. So that's my story and my words of encouragement. Thank you very much.